Morning, everyone. We have Coach Payton for the call. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Megan.
Good morning, Coach. We'll start with Zach Stevens of the NVR.
Good morning, Coach. This morning, Vance Joseph was named a
This is our
finalist.
bonus Thursday coverage.
Let's go. I appreciate it,
bonus,
Coach.
All right, let's go.
All right. This morning, Vance Joseph was named candidate or a finalist for Assistant Coach of the Year, and Nik Bonitto was named finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. What have those two guys meant to the team getting to this point, and how deserving are they of that?
Man, I'm super excited when I saw that news, and I think it's I can't think of they're two great candidates. Vance has been outstanding and a big reason we're here, and then Nik with the season he's had. You know how I feel when they do these voting, and every once in a while, but Bonitto is an all-pro player and a Pro Bowl player, and I'm happy for both of them.
Parker Gabriel, the Denver Post.
Morning, Sean. You talk a lot about hurricane-proof players, and I'm wondering, I guess, sort of two parts. How do you identify them? Like, is it film? Is it you have to get to know guys before you know that? And then two, can you develop that?
I'm going to answer the second one first. Yes. This Elizabeth Duckworth, who's written this and done a thesis and books on grit, believes it can be developed. Obviously, it's something that's, I think it's learned to some degree. It's not like, oh, I was just born with grit genes. But it can be developed. And then to your first question, it's not film. It's all the other digging relative to football intelligence, makeup, adversity. You can like I knew. Now we didn't draft Jaleel, but I heard the report on how he arrived at being a candidate to be in the NFL, and then the question was, is he good enough? And then that question's been answered. But I think that that requires a lot of digging, and that's the on-field scout, that's the player visits, that's the visit with not the trainer, but like the assistant trainer. Like you got to do some digging on that, and now you can see that sometimes in his play, but I think that requires a lot of scouting.
Mike Kliss, 9 News.
Yeah, Sean, last week, there was a lot of talk about you running the ball and you were going to run it on your play sheet, and it didn't seem like you ran it quite as much as planned. Is it?
We just won the game. So
yeah, right.
I know there was a lot of talk about how, but games unfold differently. Look, I did first running play of the game for Buffalo, went for 24 yards, and so I'll write it on the script for you today again, so that it's a reminder. But the key is understanding how to win that game, and then understanding how it adjusts.
Kyle Fredrickson, the Gazette.
Hey, Sean, and talking with several players yesterday, many described Jarrett Stidham as almost like another quarterback coach on the field. I'm just curious how valuable his 3 years have been in your system and his understanding of the offense, and how smoothly that's allowed this transition to be.
Well, I would say it's the elite relative to, play concepts in the huddle. There's a calmness about them. When now I'm not making a comparison, and yet I'll read 50 stories that I compared this player to Mark Brunell. I just can't help it. All right, I'm not making the comparison, but Brunell had this calmness about him when he was R2. He'd step in the huddle. That's why I loved back in the day when the backup quarterbacks were the holders. They were the last ones to talk to the kickers. You could fake a field goal. And then at some point, the special teams coaches had a coup, and they said, well, the punters get more time to work with them. But Burnell just had that moxie, and so if it wasn't your starter and he stepped in, there was this smooth operation. And I would say Stidham has that ability to step right in, calm things down. Here's what we're doing, break the huddle. And so yesterday's practice was a perfect indication of it. The key was making sure, and I said this offensively, let's don't assume, the cadence is the cadence, but one beat off and we could have a couple false starts. So, focus on making sure, and typically most teams in the league, as the starter gets inbred with ingrained in his cadence, it's the others that begin to emulate it identically. And so we've seen that passed down through the years. Just think about Favre and the gun and the foot forward and how he stood. And then all of a sudden you started seeing the exact from Rodgers. And then you see the exact from their quarterback now. It's interesting when you see certain traits like that maybe aren't like, we're not talking about throwing traits, but from a cadence standpoint, all of that was smooth yesterday.
Thank you, Coach. That appears to be all the questions we have for you today. Thank you for joining us.